Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about something kind of different, but it's something that I get asked about actually a lot, and that is the Fertility Awareness Method. You guys ask me so much about my experience with it, or like how you do it, and basically I'm going to go over all that in this video, you know, exactly what it is, and kind of like my journey with getting off of birth control and using a more natural method of birth control, and just kind of sharing my story and also like how I did it. So in a nutshell, the Fertility Awareness Method is basically just when you tune into different signs, you know, and symptoms within your own body, and from there you can kind of discern the days of the month that you are fertile and also infertile. So you can use it if you are trying to prevent pregnancy, which is what Matt and I have been doing for a while, and you also can use it if you are trying to get pregnant as well, because it helps you pinpoint when you are fertile, so that way you can increase your chance of getting pregnant. So like I said, you basically just follow and track different signs throughout your cycle to basically tell you whether or not you are fertile or infertile. And you actually are only fertile for like a few days out of the month. The window where you can get pregnant is actually like really small. So after you ovulate, which is around the middle or so of your cycle, by the way, I did a whole menstrual cycle video. If you guys want to hear like start to finish what a whole cycle entails with hormones and everything like that, you should go check it out, because all women should be informed on this. I think it's like such a big part of our lives, and it's like not something we're really taught. But anyway, so when you ovulate in like the middle of your cycle, that egg can only be fertilized for like 12 to 24, maybe 48 hours. And sperm can last like within the vagina for like 5 days. So technically like the 5 days or so ish leading up to when you ovulate, you are like potentially fertile and could get pregnant, but essentially outside of that window you can't. So it's actually like a smaller window than you might think, and I feel like a lot of people didn't know or don't know that. I know I didn't know that before I started practicing this. So speaking of practicing this, I kind of want to share with you guys my story and why I started using it and how it's been using it. Spoiler alert, I love it. But basically back in high school, I started getting like really brutal period symptoms. I mean, I would every single month almost have to like leave school because I was just in debilitating pain, and like I've got a decent pain tolerance. So the fact that I like couldn't get up or move was painful. And also sometimes I would throw up, I would get super nauseous, and it was just like not good. So the fact that I always had to leave school every like once a month was just not convenient. So I went to my doctor, and of course what they tell you to do is they tell you to go on the pill, because the pill will get rid of the symptoms. So I went on the pill, and I was on it for a long time, and the good thing about the pill is it totally worked. It got rid of all of my symptoms. My periods gradually just got easier and easier to deal with, to the point where like I would barely even notice that they were there while I was on the pill. And I was on it for a long time, like mostly through college. I think there was like one point where I went off of it kind of accidentally and then got back on it, but I was on it pretty much all through college. Now, luckily, I never had like really bad reactions to being on the birth control pill. I was always on a pretty low dose. I honestly don't remember what it was that I was on. Don't remember any of the names, but I never had like crazy mood swings or like weight fluctuations or acne or anything like that. Not out of like the, you know, normal realm of what women experience. But so that was good, but I never really liked being on it. I'm definitely more I'm more naturally inclined just as a person. So I didn't love the idea of being on artificial hormones that I was taking every single day for at least 3 weeks out of the month. But it was working, you know, and I was in college, and then once I graduated and was working like a normal 9-to-5 job, I like went off of it, but then had to go back on because the symptoms came back. And I remember one day at work being like holed up in a stall. It was actually during my dietetic internship, just feeling like I was going to die. And it was just like, okay, well, this is like not gonna fly, because I have to be present at work. So I was on it for a long time to manage my symptoms. But here's the thing. Does it manage your symptoms? Yes, but it also just like masks the problem, because obviously it's not normal to feel that debilitated. It's not normal for it to be that painful. It shouldn't make you like physically sick. So I always kind of knew that there was probably some kind of underlying issue, but never really knew what it was because the birth control just kind of masked it for a while. So it was around the time that Matt and I got married, which was like a year and a half ago. I was like, I'm done. I am going off the pill. You know, like, I will figure this out. I just want to know like what is wrong. I just don't want to be on artificial hormones anymore. It just like wasn't for me. And I knew that I just wanted to completely get off of it and let my body kind of figure itself out. And I knew that the symptoms probably would come back because I had gone off of it before and they always came back. So I was prepared for that. And I was also prepared like to get to the bottom of it and to try and figure out why this happens to me. So it took me about, I would say, once I went off the pill, like 6 months to like really kind of get a handle on my cycle, just because when you go off the pill, and it's different for every woman, some women take a month, some women take a year for their cycle to regulate, but it just all depends on your body and like how long you were on it and like what dosage you were on. But it definitely does take your body a little bit of time to adjust back and kind of like redeem its normal cycle, because it was just kind of like taken over by artificial hormones for so long, and just therefore it was kind of like deactivated. So I just really wanted to figure it out. And also I just want to say, like, absolutely no shade. Like, if you are on birth control or on some kind of contraceptive, like, you do you. I just knew that it wasn't like right for me. I think that everyone like should just kind of do their own research and get empowered and make whatever decision works for them at that point in your life. We're always changing, so different things are going to work for us at different times, but like no hate whatsoever. This isn't necessarily for everyone, but I do want to say that if you are like me and you were on it mainly just to mainly just to alleviate symptoms or manage symptoms, just know that, eventually when you do go off the pill, if you ever do, like if you want to have kids and stuff like that, they're going to come back, and there is probably something going on underneath that you are just masking for the time being. It's not necessarily going to be something that's super scary and like life-changing. It really all depends, but I just think it is important to like acknowledge that it's just kind of like a band-aid, and it's certainly not a fix. So like I was saying, I really just wanted to kind of figure out my cycle. So for a long time, the symptoms did come back, and I was just kind of trying to figure out what exactly was going on. I know I had mentioned it here on my channel before about this, like the really just brutal symptoms that I have that come along with my period. And a lot of you guys were like, it could be endometriosis, like you should really get that checked out. And I did go see my midwife, and we really don't think that it's that, just based on all of my symptoms, or I should say lack of symptoms, like all of the other endometriosis symptoms I don't have. So the only way to really know is if you have like laparoscopic surgery. So they like literally look inside go in your abdomen to see if you have the tissue. Basically with endometriosis, it's just like uterine tissue that grows in areas outside of your uterus. So it ends up in places it doesn't belong. So when you have your period and that uterine lining sheds, it's shedding in places where it can't necessarily like escape your body because it's not in your uterus, if that makes sense. So it can be super painful. But we don't really think it's that, which is good. But we do probably think that I had some kind of like estrogen imbalance or estrogen dominance, really, which unfortunately is actually super common in women nowadays, just because of the environment that we live in and the toxic products that we use and our diets. It's just actually super common. So luckily I have been doing different things that have really helped, and my period symptoms have like completely improved, if not like almost gone away. And I attribute that to a few different things. I think one of the huge things is I have recently, over the past, I don't know, 6 or so months, I've been talking about it so much here on my channel, but I have been like completely just detoxifying my life. So all of my skincare products, body care products, makeup, I no longer use candles, I don't use perfume. All of my cleaning products I've got rid of that are sneakily toxic because they have fragrance. Even like all the Mrs. Meyer stuff, that was all the stuff I use, and guess what? It's not good. All of these, these products are just filled with chemicals and artificial fragrances and phthalates, and all of these things mess with our hormones. They can actually like be hormone blockers and dysregulators, and that is, a huge contributor to having imbalances in your hormones. So I think switching all that stuff out has helped so much. And then also just using honestly oils. One of the biggest things that has made like such a difference for me is, it's called Progestins Plus. Let me grab it actually. I keep it at my bedside, so because I roll it on every single night. But this stuff just completely has changed the game for me. It actually has like the bioidentical form, not the artificial form that you get in like progesterone creams, but the body identical form of progesterone, and it's actually extracted from yams, so it's extremely natural, but it helps boost my progesterone levels, which are, you know, or were very imbalanced because I had estrogen dominance. So the fact that I use this and it like completely like automatically regulated my cycles, and then also like another oil blend I use is called Dragon Time. I use that like leading up to my period, and it really helps alleviate the symptoms. So just kind of all of that taken into consideration, we definitely think that it was just some kind of hormone imbalance, because it seemed to kind of correct itself when I made some changes or, you know, added in some things to my routine. So that's good. So I have luckily kind of really been able to manage my symptoms and alleviate them like tenfold. But I want to also talk about exactly what I did, or exactly what I do as far as the Fertility Awareness Method, and it has kind of changed as time has gone on because I've just gotten a lot better at it. But first I will start out with what I did in the very beginning. Okay, so as I said, when I went off the pill, my periods were super irregular for a while because it just took my body, you know, a little while to kind of get back into the swing of things as far as having a normal natural cycle and not one that is like chemically triggered. So in the beginning, I used a BBT thermometer. I would take my temperature every single morning when I woke up. So you have to get, I got this on Amazon. They're really inexpensive, but it's basically just a little thermometer. I would just, you know, take my oral temperature every morning. And you have to get a BBT. BBT stands for basal body temperature, which is basically like your body temperature at complete rest. So you take it first thing in the morning before you even get up or move out of bed, because your temperature will rise when you do that. And you want to make sure to get specifically a BBT thermometer and don't just use like a regular thermometer, because it's more precise and can, you know, detect even like tiny little fluctuations in temperature, whereas a normal thermometer that you would, you know, use if you've got a fever or something won't do that. So I use this every morning when I got up. Not gonna lie, it's kind of a pain, but it was super helpful in the beginning for me to get to know my cycle and also pinpoint like when I ovulated. So I would take my temperature every single morning and then I would record it. So I used, it's called Fertility Friend. There's a ton of different apps that help you like, or, you know, you can track your temperatures on. But that was just the one that I used because when I Googled it, that was like one of the first ones that came up. So I would use that and I would just put in my temperature every single morning and it just tracks it on a chart. So typically when you are halfway through your cycle, your temperature actually rises. So in the first part of your cycle, your temperature is slightly lower. And then in the second phase of your, like the second half of your cycle, it's a little bit higher. So when you see that spike in temperature, you're able to kind of discern when you ovulated, but you can only discern that after you've already ovulated. So it was just helpful for me to use this to kind of see month after month, like when I was like typically ovulating. Again, it was a little spotty and it was all over the place because I was still figuring things out, but we were just kind of like, you know, extra careful because we didn't really know like necessarily when I was ovulating. And then after about 6 months, like I said, my cycle became more predictable. It still wasn't super regular until I started using this stuff, which was like back this in the fall I started using it, and it like immediately my cycle became super regular. For me, it's like every 30 days. I ovulate on day 16, and before it was always like kind of variable, maybe a little bit longer than, you know, 30 days. Ovulation day kind of like floated around, but this stuff seriously is like magic. But anyway, so after about 6 months, I kind of got a handle on it and I stopped taking my temperature just because it's kind of annoying, I'm not gonna lie, because you have to take it at the exact same time every single day, or you're supposed to, for it to be the most accurate. And if you're not very accurate with it, like it can really just, it can become like a waste of time, because if you don't get like a good chart, you don't know when you ovulated, and then you, I don't know. So it's just kind of annoying, and like on the weekends we like to sleep in a little bit and I have to set an alarm, and also like when you travel it gets thrown off. So it was just like not the most convenient thing. It did work for me for a while, but once I kind of got to that point, I was relying on other signs that I was able to pinpoint like around when I was ovulating, based on, you know, taking my temperature and knowing exactly when I ovulated. And the biggest one, and this might be kind of gross, but this is like totally a normal thing, and that is just cervical mucus, just paying attention to that. And you don't have to even, like, at least for me, like if you Google it and how to check your cervical mucus, it will tell you to like insert your fingers in your vagina. Like, you really don't have to do that. Like, you can just like pay attention to like discharge that you have, or like on toilet paper. Like, it's really not, that doesn't have to be this big kind of procedure every day. So basically, when you, like, after your period, you have very little cervical mucus, and then as time goes on, as you approach you know, like that second week, it starts to get a little bit creamier, and then as you approach your fertile window, it gets thinner and thinner and thinner, more watery, and then when you are at like your peak fertility, it is like an egg white consistency. It's very stretchy, and it's literally just like egg whites. So that is when you're at your like highest fertility, because that type of cervical mucus is the most convenient for sperm to swim through and to move up your vagina, basically. So that's why you secrete that when you are fertile, when you're about to ovulate. So after you ovulate, that kind of, you know, tapers off. You go back to more creamy cervical mucus, and then as you get closer to your period, at least for me, things just kind of dry up. So you've got to pay attention to your own body, because everyone is a little bit different. But once you know, are, you know, paying attention to this, after a few months, you kind of figure out like what's happening with your body. So after, you know, using temperatures for a while to kind of figure out my cycle, and once it was more regular and I understood cervical mucus, I didn't have to use the BBT thermometer anymore, which was really nice, and I was just able to focus on that, and it just really gives you a picture of exactly what's going on. And then even on the days where I like on the day that I ovulate, I usually have like very faint cramps, like really light. Like, I almost, if I was like really busy, I might not even notice them, but if you're really tuned in, you can. And not everyone feels that, but it's just kind of another sign that points you to, okay, all right, I ovulated. And then obviously we use the fertility awareness method, you know, to prevent pregnancy. Eventually when we want to have kids, it'll be really nice to already know exactly what's going on with my cycle and when I'm fertile and all of that. Like, it's just not something I'm gonna have to figure out when that time comes, which is really nice, honestly, to have like that knowledge already. And it's just really nice to be in tune with your body, and just kind of live according to your cycle and the hormones, and just like really maximizing how you, what you do based on how you feel at different times in the month. It's actually pretty awesome. But obviously, since we use this, you know, at this point in time to prevent pregnancy, obviously when you're fertile, you just want to be more careful. Some people will completely abstain, or, you know, you can use different methods, but you just want to be careful during that time. And then basically when you're outside of your fertile window, it's really, the chance of getting pregnant is extremely small. Once you get to know your cycle, you will really understand and know, you know, based on when you ovulate and when you get your period and all of that, like what your chances are. But it's honestly just so nice to be in tune with what's going on with your body, and not just be like taking something that completely like renders it, I don't know, like it's like not, nothing's happening, at least not what's not like it's triggered by chemicals when you are on some kind of contraceptive. And I gotta say, like, I just feel really good like not being on the pill. And like I said, like, I never had really a bad experience with it. Like, I took it in stride for the most part when I was on it, which was nice. But it's definitely nice to, like I said, be in tune with your body, and just knowing that I'm not putting any chemicals into, or, you know, not putting any birth control into it, or any artificial hormones. It's just nice to know that my body is doing what it's, you know, built to do, and that like my cycle is normal. It's just like, it's kind of reassuring, and it's kind of empowering. The fertility awareness method is definitely not for everyone. It's definitely something that you have to be really diligent about, like at least at first when you are first learning your cycle, because it's all new to you and like you don't necessarily know what's happening with your body. But trust me when I say, like, give it a few months and just practice, and it really does become second nature, and it's just really nice. Although you definitely do have to be diligent, especially in the beginning, it's really not that difficult. And now I give like barely any thought to it at all, because I'm just so used to my cycle that it's just not something that dominates a lot of my time or thought process. It's just kind of second nature now, which is really like a gift. So if you have been considering, you know, going off contraceptives, if, you know, maybe you want to get to the underlying problem like I did, if you felt like you were definitely masking some kind of symptoms, this is definitely an awesome natural alternative. And if you are like want more information, because obviously I'm like not an expert, and, you know, I'm sure there's a lot more that could be said to this topic, but this is just kind of like my experience and what I've done and what works for me. But there is a book called Taking Charge of Your Fertility. I will link it down below. I actually personally have not read that book. It's like been on my list for forever, but now that I've like kind of gotten it down, it's all about the Fertility Awareness Method. Now that I've kind of gotten it down, I'm like less motivated to read the book, but I hear amazing things about it, and it's just so good to get to know your body and your cycle. Again, like, this is such a big part of our lives as women, and a lot of the times we just like go on some kind of contraceptive when we're a teenager, and we just never really get in touch with this side of ourselves until like later down the road when you want to have kids, and then it's like kind of a time crunch because you want to have babies and you potentially have problems you've been masking for years. So I just think it's really awesome and empowering to get to know your cycle, and I couldn't be a proponent of it more. I've had such a good experience, and I would totally encourage you guys to look into it if you're curious, do your research, because I've had a great experience. But that is it for this video. I hope that you guys found it helpful and informative. I love these videos where I'm just kind of chatting and sharing with you guys like my story or experience. It's just like fun for me to film. So I hope that you guys enjoyed it and maybe learned something from it. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I make new videos every week and would love to have you join my little family here on YouTube. And of course, follow me on Instagram as well, because I am on there all the time and would love to hang out. But that is it for this video. So thank you guys again so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.